From the iconic cape and cowl to the endless rogues gallery, Batman has always been more than just a superhero. He's a vigilante defined by darkness, grit, and an unyielding moral code. But sometimes Batman goes beyond just crime fighting. He becomes an unstoppable force of vengeance. Today, we're diving deep into the most brutal version of Batman, exploring the moments when he embraced his darkest side to become the absolute Batman. When we talk about Batman being brutal, we're not only referring to his incredible strength or his impressive combat skills, but also to his mindset, the part of him willing to push the limits to take down Gotham's worst. From Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns to the Batman Damned series, certain story arcs showcase a Batman that is raw, ruthless, and relentless. First, let's dive into Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns. This storyline redefined Batman in the 1980s. After being retired for over a decade, Bruce Wayne dons the cape again to clean up a Gotham drowning in chaos. But this is not the Batman of yesteryear. He's older, angrier, and far more willing to cross lines. In his fights against brutal gangs and even Superman, we see him unleash all his pent-up rage. Miller's Batman is ready to push himself to the edge and beyond. He's not afraid of anyone, not even the Man of Steel, and proves he can take on anything and anyone if it means protecting Gotham. Now, in the Batman Damned storyline, we encounter another layer of brutal Batman. Here he faces down mystical forces in a story that merges horror with psychological drama. Batman's battle with the Joker takes him to dark, disturbing places, both physically and mentally. Haunted by the events around him, his sense of reality blurs, and he's forced to confront his deepest fears. This version of Batman is physically bruised and emotionally tortured. The sheer mental anguish Batman goes through in this arc reveals the intense psychological toll of his mission. He's not just fighting criminals. He's battling his inner demons, which ultimately makes him a more ruthless, unforgiving hero. And when we think of brutal Batman, it's hard not to bring up Flashpoint Batman, a version from an alternate timeline where Bruce's father, Thomas Wayne, becomes Batman instead. After Bruce's tragic death in this timeline, Thomas embraces a far more violent approach to fighting crime. This Batman carries guns, kills when necessary, and isn't bound by the same moral restrictions Bruce holds so dear. The Flashpoint storyline highlights the brutality that emerges when vengeance overtakes morality. Thomas Wayne's Batman is a tragic figure, driven by loss and rage, a Batman without mercy. Then there's Batman, Year One. Although this isn't necessarily a brutal Batman in the sense of excessive violence, it's the story of a Batman who's still figuring out how far he's willing to go. He's raw, inexperienced, and sometimes overly harsh. His initial interactions with criminals in Gotham are ruthless because he's learning the boundaries of his own power. This is a Batman who hasn't yet formed his strict moral code and is testing the waters of brutality. Year One shows us a Batman at his most primal, a man who's still learning that being a hero sometimes requires restraint. Another storyline that showcases Batman's darker side is Batman Hush. In this series, we see Batman go head-to-head with almost every major villain in Gotham. His determination is relentless as he navigates physical threats, betrayals, and psychological warfare. Batman is pushed to his limits, leading him to question everyone around him. This arc explores Batman's ability to compartmentalize his emotions and focus purely on the mission. The brutality here isn't just in the physical fights, but in the emotional walls he builds to protect himself. His ruthless determination to uncover the mystery of Hush makes him seem almost inhuman at times. We can't forget Batman Arkham Asylum, one of the most psychologically brutal Batman stories ever told. Batman willingly locks himself in Arkham Asylum with Gotham's deadliest criminals, a move that shows just how far he's willing to go to understand the mind of a psychopath. This storyline reveals Batman's chilling connection to the villains he fights. At times, the lines between hero and villain blur, with Batman himself questioning whether he's just as much a monster as the criminals he's put away. He's pushed mentally and emotionally, making us wonder if he's losing his grip on sanity. This Batman is one who's not afraid to walk the line between justice and madness, proving that his mind can be just as brutal as his fists. Let's talk about the Batman Who Laughs, a twisted version of Batman from the Dark Multiverse. In this alternate reality, Bruce is corrupted by the Joker's toxin, turning him into a sinister Jokerized Batman who embodies the worst aspects of both characters. He's a genius strategist with no moral compass, willing to destroy entire worlds to achieve his ends. This version of Batman is the ultimate symbol of brutality, showcasing what happens when Batman's intellect is combined with the Joker's chaos. It's a terrifying look at what could happen if Batman ever truly lost his way and embraced the darkness fully. Even in Batman, The Killing Joke, we see glimpses of a Batman who's pushed to his breaking point. This classic storyline focuses on the Joker's attempts to drive Commissioner Gordon insane, but it's also about Batman's struggle with his own limits. The Joker is testing Batman, trying to prove that even the most moral men can fall into madness. By the end, Batman laughs alongside the Joker, a chilling moment that makes us wonder how close he is to snapping. Batman's restraint is what makes him brutal here. He holds back when he wants to unleash, which may be the hardest thing he ever does. Let's not forget about Under the Red Hood. In this storyline, Batman confronts Jason Todd, his former Robin, who's been resurrected and turned into a brutal anti-hero. Jason's return forces Batman to face his biggest failure and challenges his moral code. Jason questions Batman's refusal to kill the Joker, who murdered him. This storyline shows us Batman's inner struggle. He's brutal in his ability to endure pain, to live with his mistakes, and to face the consequences of his choices. Here, Batman's brutality isn't about physical violence, but the emotional strength it takes to live with his principles. In the Injustice series, Batman stands against a regime led by Superman after a devastating tragedy changes the Man of Steel forever. Refusing to bow to Superman's tyrannical rule, Batman forms an underground resistance. The stakes are higher, and the fight is more dangerous than ever. Batman's refusal to compromise his values, even against an all-powerful Superman, is his defining trait in this brutal universe. Despite having far fewer resources, Batman proves he's willing to sacrifice everything, including his own life, to stand up for freedom and justice. His brutal determination makes him a formidable force, willing to face impossible odds for the greater good. One of the most recent portrayals of Batman's brutality is in the Three Jokers storyline. Here, Batman faces not one but three Jokers, each representing a different facet of the Joker's twisted personality. This arc dives into the trauma that both Batman and his allies have endured. We see a Batman who's tired, haunted, and almost out of patience. But instead of giving in, he channels his pain into a relentless pursuit of justice. In this story, Batman is pushed to his emotional limits, revealing the brutal toll his mission has taken on him. The physical fights are intense, but the true brutality lies in Batman's resilience and his refusal to let his enemies break him. In Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker, we see an older, even more ruthless Batman, one who's no longer restrained by youth or idealism. In this animated feature, a future Batman takes on the resurrected Joker, but the flashbacks show just how brutal Bruce Wayne has become. His combat style is harsher, his tactics more ruthless, and his willingness to push boundaries far greater. He's a Batman who knows he has limited time and uses every ounce of it to keep Gotham safe, even if it means crossing lines he once held sacred. Ultimately, these versions of Batman, from Miller's hardened hero to the twisted Batman who laughs, showcase a character unafraid to confront darkness, whether it's within Gotham or within himself. What makes Batman so compelling is that his brutality is never mindless. It's calculated, deliberate, and restrained by a code that keeps him grounded. Each version of Batman we've explored today reflects a different facet of that brutality, reminding us that sometimes the most heroic thing you can do is to stay true to your principles, no matter how tempting it might be to let go. Batman isn't brutal because he enjoys violence. He's brutal because he understands that Gotham's villains require a relentless force to keep them at bay. His darkness is his strength, his brutality a shield for those who cannot defend themselves. He's not just the hero Gotham deserves, but the one it needs. A brutal, unyielding protector in a world that would be much darker without him. And that's what makes Batman the most brutal hero of them all.